Hey there, I'm Michael Williams, your island chef. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to teach you how to make some delicious snacks and appetizers. We're going to do 3 recipes. A jalapeno lime spiced nut, we're going to do a chipotle black bean dip, and then after that I'm going to teach you how to make your own crackers. It's going to be awesome. All that is coming up on today's episode. So, first recipe on today's show is a mixed spiced nut recipe. Now, if you're going to go buy some pre-made spiced nuts, they're really expensive. Even just plain nuts from the bulk aisle are already expensive, so that's why. Now, that's the whole point of this. It's really simple, really easy to change up your flavors, and today we're going to do a jalapeno lime flavored spiced nut. It's awesome. Let's get into it. So, to get the lime flavor, I'm going to get it 2 ways. First off is the zest. And take note here, I've only just barely taken off that outside green layer and not gotten into the white part. If you get into the white part, you get into the bitter. So I'm always rotating my lime while I'm zesting. And you don't spend more than, a couple swipes on each spot. That's the technique. We've got our microplane here, which does a really nice job of getting a fine shred. There we go. So we've now got the zest of 2 limes. We're going to use the juice later on in the cooking process once we've already baked the nuts, so we'll get back to that. Now, the nuts that you choose will have an impact on how much it costs. Pecans and cashews, a little bit more expensive, a little bit less expensive getting into the almonds. And if you really want to save some money, you can do the bulk or even the entire recipe with peanuts. So once you've got your nuts sorted, you might want to soak your nuts. A lot of nutrition experts are talking about the benefits of soaking nuts. It starts the sprouting process, it eliminates some of the toxins, and it makes the nutrients that are within the nuts more digestible. So that's what I've done here is I've soaked these. I've got a combination of nuts that I've soaked for about 12 hours. We're now going to discard and drain off the water. Perfect. So we'll let those drain while we make up our spice rub, our spice kind of coating that we're going to use to coat our nuts. Now I've already got some Dijon mustard in here, a couple tablespoons of Dijon mustard. All right, let's get our lime zest that we beautifully created. Okay. And now, I've got a whole jalapeno here, washed already. If you didn't know it was important to wash jalapenos, well, I'm telling you, it is. So you see, I just quartered that, okay? I quartered that lengthwise, which makes it really easy to remove the vein and the seeds, like so. And then we're just gonna chop that up really fine. Now, when you're working with jalapenos, once you're done, really important to wash your hands and clean your cutting board. Now you can see I'm cutting this into little thin strips. And depending on how you like it, I like a little bit of heat. I'm going to use the whole jalapeno. Okay, now that I've got my strips, I'm going to make my cut this way. And we're going to have a nice little fine dice. Just a couple of extra chops there. Perfect. Our jalapenos are ready to go. Okay, in they go with our mustard and lime zest. And if you don't want to burn your eyes when you accidentally forget and rub, make sure you wash really well, because all hot peppers leave residues on your hands after you handle them, and might cause some grief. Now, time to spice it up a little bit. Some garlic powder, some pepper, Himalayan salt, and toasted and ground coriander seed. So to keep things really simple for you, because that's what I'm all about, I've just done a teaspoon of each: salt, Again, Himalayan pink salt, really nutritious, lots of benefits. Teaspoon of garlic powder, teaspoon of toasted and ground coriander. Now, I just do about a half a teaspoon of the ground pepper, freshly ground pepper. And there's our spices, good to go. Now, it's time for the honey. So I've got some nice Vancouver Island honey here. You know, I'm a big fan of supporting my local bees. And I'm gonna go with a couple tablespoons. And you saw I just did what I like to think of as a heaping tablespoon of honey, which is pretty much 2 tablespoons the way it works. There we go. So, the final ingredient, and what holds all of this onto the nuts, is an egg white, okay? So, we're gonna crack an egg white into here. Just hold on to that yolk. Whew, almost lost it. This is a fresh one, as you can see. All right, so now we're gonna whisk this up. It all comes together. Make sure it's really well whisked. You wanna break up the structure of that egg white so that it's totally separate. Oh, the smells that are coming out of here, it just smells amazing. The mustard, the jalapeno. Get our nuts in here now. Okay. And we'll just toss this around and we'll be ready to bake. So now at this stage, you want to toss your nuts around really well. Make sure they're very well coated. Everything kind of, you know, gets evenly distributed. Really important. And there is a little bit of excess here, so with my handy little perforated spoon here, I make sure that the excess spice coating is not piling up under the nuts. And then what we're gonna do is bake them in a low oven, about 250 degrees. Stir them a few times throughout the process so that they're not all clumped together. And once they're, you know, take about an hour or so. And towards the end, we'll drizzle them with some lime juice, some freshly squeezed lime juice, and let that dry. Keep them in a single layer. Oh man, I'm really excited. I love this recipe. So once again, in the oven, 250, stir it a couple times throughout the hour, and drizzle a little bit of lime juice on at the end. Let that dry, back in the oven, and they'll be good to go. And this is how they come out. Super tasty. Jalapeno, a little bit of lime. Really, really good. I love this recipe. Jalapeno lime spiced nuts. When we come back, we're going to be making a Chipotle black bean dip. It's delicious and I love it. Welcome back to the kitchen. So, the next recipe we're going to be making is the Chipotle black bean dip. Really love this dip, very versatile, from sandwich spread to into a wrap to actually, you know, just a dip for crudités, crackers, whatever else. So let's get into it. The first step is slicing up some onions. Cut off the top and the bottom of your onion. Okay, and then rest on one of the cut sides, cut it in half, down the middle. Then, makes life much easier when it comes time to peel. Now I've showed you guys this before. You can slice your onion just like this, but we end up with some inconsistencies. So what I like to do, separate it out into layers, okay, and then take that layer and then slice. And by doing this, we end up with a much more consistently sliced onion. Everything's relatively the same size, so it's going to caramelize at the same rate in the pan. So we'll probably go with, yeah, that'll be good right there. So that's going to be good there. So, you know, that was a larger onion, so I only took about 3/4 of it. If it was a small onion, that would have been perfect. Next up, garlic. Now, I don't want to spend all day peeling this because I'm going to use almost the whole bulb in our recipe. So I'm going to use my pot to do the peeling for me. Okay, and what that does, it just breaks the whole bulb apart, and it also pops open the skin, making it really easy to peel. By doing that, the pot method, the smash method, as I like to call it, I'd save myself a lot of time, trust me. You know, I used to do it the other way, and if you don't crack that skin first, it takes forever to peel a clove of garlic. So now the idea, I've got a pan already warm on the stovetop. What I want to do here is make these garlic cloves about the same size as the onion. So the bigger one, you know, I'm going to half or even quarter some of these cloves, so they're relatively the same size as the sliced onion. And that way they'll all cook at the same speed. Any blemishes, remove, like so. Want to get rid of that. Okay. And this is now ready to hit the pan. On medium heat, our pan is already warm. In go our onions and garlic together. Preheat the pan, add the oil, in go the onions and the garlic. And we're just going to saute these. Again, maybe that's a touch high, so I'm just going to turn it down a little bit so that they caramelize slowly and evenly. All right, so that'll take about 10 minutes or so to caramelize nicely. How we're going to finish this off is we're going to add some cumin seeds to the garlic and onions once they're nicely browned. Okay? Then we're going to stop that browning process and add in some canned cherry tomatoes. Okay? So then we'll concentrate the liquids down in that. Then we're going to add all of that to the food processor along with our black beans, salt, pepper, season it up, some fresh basil, a little bit of chipotle, and some olive oil to finish it off. It's going to be so delicious. 10 minutes or so, you can see we've got some really nice caramelization here on our garlic and onions. Now we're just going to quickly toast off our whole cumin seeds, and you can see I'm not being shy here, you know. I'm loading up a good heaping tablespoon worth because I really like the effect of the whole cumin seed. Stir that around, give it about 30 seconds to a minute, and then add in your tomato. Now it's because of the tomato that I'm using a stainless steel pot, because I generally use my cast iron, as you may well know. But cast iron and the acid in tomato are not friends. So we're just going to let that tomato concentrate down for a little bit, get nice and thick and rich, and we'll be ready to add that to the food processor. In the meantime, we'll get all the ingredients ready in the food processor so that we're ready to finish this off. Now I've got a can of black beans here, which I've drained off. So in go the black beans. And we're gonna get one whole chipotle pepper. Now, if you don't like spice, you're probably gonna wanna cut it in half or just even a quarter if it's that big. Sometimes they're bigger than others. I'm good with the spice, so I'm gonna put a whole one in. Maybe even a little bit of that sauce too. Oh, love that. I'm also going to just tear some leaves off the stem here with the basil. We're going to add that to the food processor once everything's nice and smooth. And just let the last, 10 seconds process up the basil, and then we'll have some nice chopped basil inside our chipotle black bean dip. That should be good. So as you can see, all that liquid from our cherry tomatoes is condensed down into a nice paste. Caramelized onions, garlic, the cumin seeds, and now the tomatoes. This is ready to go into the food processor. All right, let's scoop in our onions and tomatoes, garlic and cumin, and we'll get this food processor rolling. All right, let's get the lid on and fire this up. My sous chef is ready to go. Add in some olive oil. And now once it's relatively smooth, add in our basil. Perfect. So, last step is to season up our dip with a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay, I got a nice sea salt here. A little bit of freshly ground black pepper. Stir that up. Now I'm just going to check, see how it tastes. Maybe a touch more salt in there. Oh, that's good. So much flavor. Nice. Oh, man, that's awesome. So, there's my Chipotle black bean dip. Coming up next, I'm going to show you how to make some delicious homemade crackers to save you some money and wow your friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. As promised, it is now time to make crackers. And you know what? There's so many options to making your own crackers, and it's so simple. And you know what? The end result is better than almost any cracker that you can buy because it's made fresh. That's the key. So let's get into it and do up a few different kinds. So baguettes work great for this. I've got a jalapeno Asiago baguette here, and I'm just going to start by cutting it into probably little less than 1/2 inch slices. And you want to make sure that it stays nice and consistent. Otherwise they're going to bake in different time frames, and some of them are going to end up darker than others. So do your best to be nice and consistent with your slices. So now we just lay our slices down on our baking tray, and they'll be ready to go into the oven. How about we slice up some pretzel bun as well? Now, Portofino pretzel buns, love these things, so delicious. Same idea, just need to slice them. Now, I'm slicing like so, and this is a bit of a smaller one, so if I wanted to make these a little bit longer, I could slice it on an angle. Okay, you see how that works? And then all of a sudden we get a much longer cracker. So there's that part of the flexibility. There's also, you know, obviously we've got different baguettes here, the jalapeno, a multi-grain. If you have a gluten sensitivity, use your gluten-free baguettes. You know, the possibilities are endless. All the way into tortillas. We've got some roti here, some Indian life roti, which I could just cut into strips and make all different shapes and sizes. And it's all the same premise. Now, once you've got your baguettes cut up, the baguettes are slightly different than the tortillas. The next step is to drizzle with some oil, okay? And then we can season it up with lots of different possibilities of spices. Let's look at that. So, now as far as oil choices, I'm big on olive oil. I like to use a nice extra virgin olive oil. It's got a nice flavor. Now, if you want to keep it a little bit more neutral, more about whatever the baguette is, then you can go with grapeseed oil, which has much less flavor, much more mild. What we're gonna do is just drizzle each cracker with some extra virgin olive oil here. Okay, nice little drizzle. And then it's time for spices. So I'm just gonna slide these around a little bit and let the bottom half absorb the extra dribbles. Great, now time for spices. Of course, we've got lots of options here. Salt and pepper, naturally, right? Definitely want some salt and pepper. Now from there, cumin, coriander, a little bit of chili, or cayenne pepper, I should say. Maybe we want a little bit of color with some curry powder, turmeric. You know, there's lots of options. It's totally up to you. So let's season this up. Just sprinkle a little bit of salt, pepper, and I'm gonna go with some cumin to go with our jalapeno ones. Great. So next, and yep, we still have options here. How about some Parmesan cheese? The real stuff, Parmigiano Reggiano. That's gonna go nicely with our jalapenos. Okay, maybe some fresh herbs. How about some fresh thyme? Okay. And you know what? The options aren't limited to just that. pull out your creativity, you know, or just keep it dead simple. Olive oil, salt, and pepper, that's kind of the starting point. From there, we saw lots of possibilities, maybe a little bit of lemon zest. You know, the choice is yours. From here, we're now gonna throw this into the oven. So I got my oven set to 375 degrees. These are gonna go in for about 15 minutes. All right, so again, it's gonna take about 15 minutes. Now, what we want, 375 is a good temperature. And what we want to happen is for those crackers to dry out so there's no moisture left in them. And we want that to happen before they go too dark. Because if they go too dark, obviously they're gonna taste bitter. But if we don't get all that moisture out, they're gonna taste stale once we kind of, you know, if we don't eat them right away. They're great fresh if they have a little bit of moisture. But if we wanna make them ahead of time and keep them in a storage container, that moisture is gonna transfer around, and when we go to eat them, they're gonna taste stale. So the key is to dry them out till they're nice and crispy, but we don't wanna burn them. Here you have it. Check out these beauties. Don't often see crackers that look that good, do you? I'm pretty excited about these. I'm gonna try my thyme pretzel. Salt, pepper, cumin. That's so good. Love it. So there you have it. Lots of possibilities. Homemade crackers. Delicious. When we come back, the details of where to find all these delicious recipes from today's show. So what did we learn today? Well, hopefully I gave you some new skills for entertaining, delicious recipes that you can use to impress your friends. If you'd like the details for jalapeno lime spiced nuts, chipotle black bean dip, or homemade crackers, they're all on the Country Grocer website. That's countrygrocer.com. They're there for you along with hundreds of other recipes. Thanks for being with us, and see you next time.
Country Grocer.